Welcome to Talking Grit, a Detroit Lions podcast. Powered by the Monroe County Reporters. Here are your hosts, Jason Harwood and Jacob Litton.
Thanks for clicking on this podcast. I am Jason Harwood. That is Jacob Litton. Jesus, Jacob Litton.
How many times have you been doing this and you still... These intros just killing you.
I don't want you to be in this. No. You've reached Talking Grit, where we talk about the Detroit Lions. We went live for the first time on Facebook, so if you're joining us from there, welcome. We've stepping back in technology. We're going to be on MySpace next, Jacob.
Yeah.
That's the goal.
Is that what this is? The Facebook jitters, and now that's why your intro is like this?
I mean, oh, no. Oh, man, I didn't even have my hat on. People see my bald head. I don't know if that light's shining on.
The reflection.
I'll cover it up. Yeah, so what's going on? What's new? How you doing?
Well, our baseball season ended. I know I texted you about that. We made the playoffs in Milo's league, which is 8U. Made the playoffs. We were in the top 4. We unfortunately lost our first playoff game, so we did not get to play in the championship.
Okay.
But it was a good season, made the playoffs. Milo really bothered by the fact that we did not make it to the championship, though. But Milo's birthday was the day after that, too, so we did a lot of fun stuff for Milo's birthday. I mean, overall, not the way we wanted the baseball season to end, but it was a good weekend.
All right.
What about you, though? What have you been up to?
Dude, I was sick over the weekend. Didn't do much. A lot of just watching gross Netflix documentaries, true crime documentaries, and maternal instincts. If you want to be like amazed at human nature, watch that and be awed. I'm not going to share any of the details with you but it is disturbing to say the least. But that's kind of what I did this weekend. Also did some podcast stuff set up. We've been ignoring our Facebook section, and so my brother runs the Monroe County Reporters, who help sponsor this. You hear him in the intro. You've heard him in the intro since the get-go, really. And so we're hoping to have him expand that over into Facebook. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, that's kind of what I've been up to. I wanted to see some movies. Haven't seen Toy Story 5. Have not seen Supergirl yet. I almost went earlier today, but after I did yard work and then 95 to 100 degree weather, I didn't feel like doing anything. I probably would have fell asleep in the theater. It was hot.
Right. There's something about being outside working or like playing sports on a hot day and then coming into the air conditioning, nice cool nap. That's the best.
Yeah, I'm just sitting there going vegging out. I'm like, I'm not doing anything. So, we are going to talk about our position series. We kind of skipped last week because we went late on Thursday. The Terrion Arnold arrest broke. Obviously, more huge news that I don't know if either of us fully expected after the hearing on Monday. So we'll talk briefly about that. We also had a question from one of our listeners based on our podcast last week. So we'll kind of throw that into there, that question, and we'll answer all that together. I want to welcome you if you're new. Subscribe, follow us on Facebook, Spotify, YouTube, wherever. We appreciate it. My goal is to get up to 50 reviews on Spotify. We're at 42. We were at 41 when I first asked. So one person followed it. If you're a procrastinator, please get us up there. There's no magic reason why I want to get to 50 other than it's a personal goal for me. Maybe it's hubris. I don't know, but I just would like to see 50. So it'd be a nice round number. Maybe
what if they get on there and they're like, these guys suck?
Yeah. I mean, I didn't ask for 55-star reviews. I did ask. I mean, they might
you
put
just
one
asked
star
for reviews.
I did. And if someone follows that, I won't be mad at them. Obviously, I'm hoping that they, if they listen to our, if they're a listener, it'd be nice to go as 5 stars. So anyways, let's start out with the top 100 list. We started talking a little bit about it last week. We both predicted where Jack Campbell was going to fall. He fell today at number 88. What is your thought there, Jacob?
That's lower than I would have liked, but I also said I was hoping that he even made the list, right? I did not have him in my locks. I was hoping that he got that accomplishment, achievement, and that recognition from the rest of the players in the league. So I think it's awesome that he's on the list. Yep. I'm not going to, think too much about the number 88 ranking. I don't remember what you said, what range you thought he was going to be in, though, because you said you thought for sure he was making it.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I thought he was going to be in the 50s, and I think he deserves their all-pro, first-team all-pro. I figure there's 11 if we're not including special teams, 11 on offense, 11 on defense, that's 22. I was given, some of the skill positions are going to get quarterback, wide
The
receiver, running
popularity
back.
contest.
They're gonna be a little higher on the list. Edge defenders are, premium position. They're gonna be, your third or fourth edge defender might be a head of linebacker. But I figured he'd be in the 50s, but 88 is really low for him. And I have a couple reasons why I think that is. Number one, he's not known for his pass rush. He's gotten better, certainly since his rookie year. Like last year, he got Dak almost for a safety again. And then what I consider, I don't know if iconic is too big of a word, but it's a play that I will always remember Jack Campbell for is Lamar Jackson on the goal line, fourth down, and
Yeah.
him just shutting him down and end up knocking the ball out. Incredible play, and that's the type of athlete that he is. I mean, he basically stopped Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson knew he wasn't going to be able to run through him. Lamar Jackson wasn't fast enough to get away from Jack Campbell, and Jack Campbell just basically ran him back to the 20-yard line. It was unbelievable. It was a huge play in that game too.
And they did put that in his highlight reel.
Yep, I saw that.
Yeah, so
Bunch
that
of
was
Iowa
cool.
guys in the highlight, like Cooper Shannon, like this.
Of course.
Like I did, and I think that's the other reason that Jack Campbell isn't in there. Jack Campbell is not a me guy. He's not a big talker. Like he is, just does his business. So like people outside of like his teammates don't really know about Jack Campbell that much. You play against him, but he's not in your face telling you how great he is. He's just not. But he's a great player, and I love that he's on our team. He's exactly a Dan Campbell type player.
Absolutely. The thing with the top 100 makes you wonder who's going to be above him as far as linebackers go. Because there
Yeah.
have been a lot of linebackers. Almost all of my top 5, when we visit the linebacker position, almost all of my top 5 have already been. Demario Davis was on there, Azeez Al-Shaair, Jack Campbell. So the only Fred Warner has not been on there yet. And then the other one on my top 5 was Roquan Smith.
Okay.
So, I mean, that's the thing. If Jack Campbell is the second highest linebacker and he's 88, then how high do you put Fred Warner or Roquan? That's what's going to be interesting to see. But it is half of this is their accolades on the field. Half of this is just the popularity factor. And you're right. He's not very vocal, in your face. He's not starring in commercials and movies and stuff like that. And
Yeah, no.
is what he is. He just focuses on football, and that's why we love him.
Yep. Dan Pask is here, so I want to give him a shout out. He's here every week. I love that he comments. We're hoping to get the comment group to grow a little bit. That'd be fun for Dan to have someone to chat while we're talking with. But he wants to say hi, and he said, "How did Jack not get that safety versus Dak?" I've watched that thing like 100 times, and it's a safety. They got the Dallas Cowboy benefit of the doubt there, in my opinion.
I purposely just pushed that out of my mind until I saw that highlight. And then it came screaming back to me like, oh, yeah, that was not a safety.
Yeah. That was one of those things that they go to commercial break and you come back and you find out that it wasn't a safety. Like they're lining up to play and you're like, what happened? And they're, and then the announcer's got to kind of try to explain it. And then the rules guy gets out. Well, the whole football, just a, whatever. And I'm like,
when you're already fuming, right?
Yeah. Exactly. It's 2 points on the ball, man. I want that ball. We talked last week. If you missed it and you haven't looked, you haven't listened to us in a little bit. We talked extensively about the Terrion Arnold situation last week in regards to possible replacements, trade, free agent, in-house. So we're not going to rehash all that today based on the development. So if you want to know, because our thoughts basically haven't changed very much, because I think both of us took the position that Terrion might not be with the Lions based on last week's, arrest. So none of that's really changed for us, at least from my perspective. I assume for you too, Jacob.
Yeah. I mean, my thing was that I thought that he either was going to be tied up in legal things or that he was going to be suspended for an indefinite period of time. So my whole thing was we need a game plan and make sure what we're going to do and act as if he's not going to be here. Maybe not in the fashion that it ended up turning out, though.
Right, but it's still the way it turned out doesn't really change how we wanted the Lions to address it.
Yes.
So we're going to talk briefly. I at 10 minutes most. I know people might be tired of this talk with Terrion. So We're going to talk 10 minutes. Basically, our reaction to the Lions releasing him. There may be the little reaction to the bond hearing itself. But before we move on to that, we had a great listener question that presented a shortcoming in my analysis last week. It says, "Hey, we still have Christian Izien too." This is from Caleb Orms, one of our listeners, and I swear that we mentioned him, and then when I went back, you mentioned his name once. I never mentioned him. So total oversight. I don't know why we didn't mention him. But my answer to Caleb is going to be my same I present here. He's going to be a great piece, right? He could play. They're trying him out at free safety and basically in the mini camps. Just a basic, I think, from my perspective, just to see if he's able to play out there. Ideally, he's in the Brian Branch spot where he could play nickel and he can also move up in like a box safety and play that aggressive, nature that Brian Branch plays. So he is a good chess piece in that, and it will be able to move him around. He's not someone that's necessarily, I think, going to go on the outside. I think he's going to play those spots, which you could move Christian Izien in that spot and McCreary to the outside. So I think you could do, that's how I foresee it. You got any thoughts on Izien before we talk about Terrion here?
Yeah, I just in my head strictly think of him being that safety, kind of like a hybrid role, but I don't ever picture him being on the outside cornerback, filling in what
Right.
Terrion was doing, especially if you have Rock, Ennis Rakestraw, Keith Abney. The other corners that we have, I just don't see Izien. In my opinion, if Izien's on the outside, something else has gone terribly wrong, or
Yeah, I
he
know.
just played so well and, just lights out, did such an amazing job. When Branch comes back, they just look for a spot for him. I just don't envision that ever happening.
Hmm. Yeah, we talked. Caleb went on and we talked a little bit about scheme changes. Like, we had talked about doing more nickel. Well, this kind of, this hinders it a little bit in the sense that now we're looking for outside corners. So some of those people that we had on nickel now might move to the outside. But we're also hindered that we don't have our linebacker. Anzalone's no longer on the team. We have, that complicates like what we want to do. But you can basically move Izien, Branch, whoever, run a three safety set, and that third safety is a linebacker, move up closer to the line. So you can still play nickel. You can still play like a 4-3. What your fourth linebacker is essentially another safety. So obviously you give up a little size, but depending on how aggressive they are and the other team, if they're playing light or heavy sets, that's going to all change, what you're going to have in their personnel. But you can still play nickel or even base with what they have set up. So we'll see how they do. But Dan says Keith Abney, and that's he could play outside, but again, that's so much to ask for a rookie corner. I don't expect that very much. Again, like you said with Izzy, and if we got Abney on the outside, either he is like the one of one from being a late round cornerback that can come in, or we're doing the Legion of Whom thing again. And Dan's like, McCreary has played in the outside. He played in the outside even in the playoffs last year, Dan. So that's certainly an option. I think originally we wanted him on the inside, basically because we thought we'd have DJ Reed and Terrion on the outside before all this stuff went down. That's just not going to happen. So Jacob, what
Real quick,
I watched the trial.
before we move on from that, I just
Yeah,
want to point
yeah.
out, just because
Yeah.
Keith Abney was drafted in the 5th round, Richard Sherman was also drafted in the 5th round.
Yeah.
And Richard Sherman obviously came in and made an impact right away.
Mhm.
And people speak pretty highly about Keith Abney. So
Yeah.
the training camp battle is going to, we'll see what happens with that. But the whole Terrion thing has helped him move up the
Yes.
depth chart.
Yeah. I mean, I'd rather have all this happen now rather than all this happen in the middle of the season and you're scrambling. We got time to. That is an advantage. And something we didn't talk about last week, like the timing of it. Like I never want anything like this to obviously happen, but I am happy that it happened at this point and there's time to plan and move, change your scheme, install new, get new players, install new scheme setups, plays, whatever. I watched the whole bond hearing on Monday. I know that you watched part of it. Did you have any thoughts on the bond hearing itself and then the eventual release of Terrion? We can kind of hit those, both together.
Just real quick about the bond hearing itself. It kind of played out how we pictured it, right? Where they didn't really have solid evidence. We talked about why would the arrest happen right now? versus when everybody else was arrested. It was pretty much exactly what everyone had assumed, that now the people that are already in custody, they've pled guilty. Now they want to talk. Now they want to implicate Terrion. And the whole thing is weird. Maybe it was his phone. Maybe it wasn't his phone. He did have his phone. He didn't have his phone. She thought that she heard Terrion's voice in the background of a phone call. All of that's just crazy, like circumstantial. Like there's just no concrete evidence at all. So in the short part that I saw, even the judge was questioning the prosecutor. It was like, this is just a terrible look for this prosecuting team. But it really felt like, why are they even coming after him? What, you have the people that did it. Now you just have this, it's like the law in Florida, right? Where it's like somebody, if he was involved in any way at all, then he gets the full felony charge with everybody else, right?
Yeah. So
I forget what
Florida's
it's called.
basically arguing that since he set up the initial confrontation, that, you know, anything that happened after it would not have happened without Terrion. So, you know, regardless if Terrion knew that there was going to be guns involved, regardless if, you know, he didn't know that there was going to be eventual return into kidnapping event, you know, that he's held liable for all that. My thoughts, like when I first heard, you know, when I first listened to everything, I thought the same thing as you. Like, this is dumb. Like, they have really nothing on Terrion. Like, I mean, they had no, like, he had no direct contact to anybody on there. It's basically he just wanted to confront the guys. I mean, that's what it was. And the judge even said, he goes, "Is it illegal for people to confront each other?" And the prosecution's like, "No, but you know, you should be able to tell that it's going to elevate to this." And I don't necessarily I don't believe that. However, I've kind of like after, and it's probably because of my natural bias of like I want things to work out. So I'm looking at like all the things that could possibly happen. I think two things for sure happen. I think the Lions released Terrion because something came out in the trial that they weren't aware of. And Terrion, like I'm sure they interviewed Terrion extensively, and he told them all the details. And something came out in the trial that did not jive with that. And I think that that's why the release happened when it happened. But I also, my thinking has turned like I don't know if I don't personally think that he should be held liable for based on what I saw as the facts. Now that could change in the trial. This is a pretrial bond hearing, so the whole case is not laid out. The prosecution may have way more facts. There's also going to be witnesses. Whether the witnesses are credible, that's going to be a huge thing. Like you already talked about, they're getting a deal, so they have a big incentive to do this. And it seems like Terrion's the big fish in all this. Like he's the NFL player. That's who they want, you know, to get on the hook. But I don't know if he should be held for kidnapping. I don't know if he should be held for any of the violence that was, you know, the pistol whipping or whatever. But it did come out in the trial that this was live streamed. Terrion was in the passenger seat, and the driver was live streaming it, and someone in the car knew that they were live streaming it. They had the sound down, so it wasn't there. I find it very hard to believe that Terrion didn't see what was going on, or kind of could see, I think, escalating. And even afterwards, it said that Terrion had told one of the women that we need to get you out of here because it's too hot. So I think some way Terrion knew that this has gotten out of hand. Whether he wanted that, whether he expected it, that's hearsay. I don't know. But at the very least, it's a conspiracy. He knew a criminal act was going on, and you know he could have called the police and said, "Hey, this is going on." You know, because for all he knows, I mean, they're putting guns in people's mouth. That's what is. You know, they could have been shot, and all of a sudden, Terrion's looking at, you know, accessory to murder charge. You know, like he could have called the police and said, "Hey, this is going on." He didn't do that. So like that is conspiracy to me. And they talked about that in the trial at the end. They go, there should be conspiracy charges, but there was some sort of technical error. So I don't know. So I think at the very least he's gonna, you know, they might plea down to that. And I don't know, you know, that might be just, you know, he might not even see any jail time on that. But maybe that's what made him pull the trigger. But that's where my mind is like Terrion didn't want all this heat on there, but he did kind of know that this had gone too far and did nothing to protect the people that was in there.
It's been weird. I guess not weird, but he has not said anything about it. They've asked him about it several times. He's very, very been quiet about it. For someone that, you know, up until now, they're like, well, it seemed like he was in the clear, right? If you asked Dan Campbell and everything, everybody thought that it was in the clear. We thought we were basically just going to be moving on, which is why it was such a surprise when he was arrested. But
Right.
now looking back in hindsight, it's like maybe he did know that he's kind of playing with fire here and that any day he could be looking over his shoulder because he really did something wrong. You don't know that for sure.
Yeah.
As far as releasing him goes, I hate that he was released. I hate the timing of it. As far as he is not being held, right? He's not going to be held in jail this whole time. He's getting released. He's getting bond. That's all great. And then right afterward, the Lions are cutting him anyway. I hate that. I get it. From the Lions' perspective, and I think you said that just a little bit ago, he still has to go to trial for this also. This is going to go all through training camp. Who's to say when this trial happens, if he's going to be allowed to play, if there's an NFL suspension looming? Is it week 6 and all of a sudden, they come and pull him out of training camp and arrest him then? There's too many unknowns about that. You don't want that distraction. I really absolutely hate it, but I do understand it. I hate it for Terrion. I really wanted him to succeed on a football level. I hate if it's true, but on a football level, that's somebody I really wanted to succeed. He was the draft pick, the first round pick when the draft was in Detroit. Somebody that we were hoping kind of break that whole stigma about the cornerbacks that we've drafted. You can read the list of the last 10 or 15 cornerbacks, and they're all not very good. I can't even think of a cornerback that we've drafted outside of Darius Slay that has stayed on the team or has been, a good player. So I just hate all of that. I hate everything about it. But I do understand that is the decision that they had to make. And I don't know that anyone's going to sign Terrion. There's a lot of news about that where people are saying the teams are going to pick him up pretty quickly. I don't think anyone's going to touch him until we figure out what happens with this legal situation. Do you think that, or do you think some team's going to take the chance on him because he's out and can actually practice? And then I have another question after this.
I find it hard to believe that someone's going to pick him up this early. Take that heat, especially it's kidnapping. It's not like a light charge.
Right.
If anything, he's going to get, would it be in Terrion's best interest anyways to sign for a league minimum contract? I don't know. And
we
then
don't even know the salary implications either, because we don't know how much of that the Lions are going to recoup. We don't know how much of the cap hits and stuff like that for sure.
Well, I was going to tell you that probably Detroit, I think it's Jeremy who wrote it. Let me double check. Yeah, Jeremy wrote it. I did
him post on X.
Yeah, so if you want to know the salary cap ramifications in detail, Jeremy breaks it down in a really way. I was gonna just briefly summarize it, but as it's he's got visuals. It's still
and
unknown,
everything. Right? He's got
it is unknown because
this happens.
Whether we're gonna void the guarantees, whether Terrion's gonna file an appeal like Cam Sutton did, it all really depends. So right now the cap hit before all this happened, the cap hit was 3.9 million this year and 4.5 million next year. Then there were some guarantees involved. If you add that in, there was 6.2 million this year, and it would have been 1.8 million if they aren't voiding the guarantees and they would have just cut them. So we would face 6.2 million, 6.6, and then 1.8. However, basically, if we cut them, it goes down. If we can get rid of, if we could void their remaining guarantees and everything, at best it's 2.6 million this year and 1.8 million next year. So we actually gain cap space this year and gain a sizable amount next year. But then Terrion Arnold could file a grievance, and in that case, Jeremy says they hold 40% of the contested salary in escrow essentially, and then that's all.
It's a whole lot of complicated salary stuff.
We're not saving a ton of money. We are gaining some money, so we could go sign someone to replace them this year. It'd be at the low end of the free agent pool, most likely that we could get body in here. And then we talked about that last week. Just do we want someone that's got snaps and all that stuff? So I don't know.
I got one last question before we move on. Though.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
If Terrion had a better on-field performance, do you think he's still a Lion right now?
Ooh, man, that is a
Let's say
question.
Hang on. So we'll flip. Yeah. If this was Amon-Ra St. Brown in this identical situation, does Amon-Ra get cut like this?
Man, jeez, Pete. I'm gonna say no. I think he's gonna get more of the benefit of the doubt than Terrion. But I'll be honest with you, it would not surprise me if the Lions were to cut him in this situation. I wouldn't be surprised. I don't think he would. I think he'd get more of the benefit of the doubt than Terrion's going to get. And I don't know if you're talking about a huge different level in player. You're talking about,
Right.
multiple time all pro versus someone that's way
But
underperforming for a first
my
rounder.
whole point, because I kind of felt the same way, is just the level of play on the field, I think, made him. We were hoping that he was going to make another leap and that he was going to come out and perform. But because there was still uncertainty there, it made it easier to make that decision. I don't think they had to have two. I mean, it's still difficult, but it wasn't as difficult as this was a Pro Bowl even type player.
Yeah.
Right. But they gave him a little bit more room because if you remember when the Cam Sutton thing happened, they basically read that report on X and just kicked Cam Sutton right out of the training room.
I think they also couldn't contact Cam Sutton, and he didn't tell him anything. And I think Terrion had told him stuff, and that's what leads me to believe that a lie came out or some sort of like the whole facts didn't come in.
Yeah.
So that is, that's to me that's also a domestic violence situation,
Right.
which
No
is
doubt there's
perceived.
not.
Well,
Cam
it's
deserved
also
to be cut. Yes. I just was.
yeah. No, I mean, both these things are disgusting acts. I mean, I'm not saying that Terrion wasn't, personally involved. He wasn't the one pistol whipping, but if he knows more about it or whatever, then yeah, it's not good. And Dan's like, couldn't he get life? Yes, he could. I just with what it depends on what evidence come out. It was a bond hearing, so we don't know everything that comes out in trial. My thing is that this is going to get pled out, and he's going to plead guilty to conspiracy. Um, his defense lawyer is a top defensive lawyer, and I listened to the whole thing. He just like destroyed the prosecution with like just his ease of talking, having this train of thought. The prosecution just kept saying the same thing over and over again, and the judge wasn't having it. So that's it. So I'm ready to move on unless you got something else that you wanted to talk about on Terrion.
Nope, I'm ready to move on.
All right, cool. I think everybody else is probably ready to move on too. So we've done, if you haven't been listening this summer, we've been doing a position series. So we've been doing, I don't know what week this is, maybe the 5th week. We're going to do defensive line this week. We didn't do one last week because of the Terrion stuff. The last one was the offensive line. And the next 2 weeks will be running back and then quarterback. So we like to just rewarn everybody, if you haven't been listening, we go through each team in the division. Jake and I will, at the end, rank where we think every team falls in the division 1 through 4. Then we give our favorite all-time Lions. And in this case today, just do it 3 people for the whole defensive line. That wasn't fair. So we got 3 inside defensive linemen, 3 edge players for our favorite all-time Lions. Then we rank the all-time or the top 5 in the NFL right now. And then we do our GOAT defensive lineman, which Jacob and I have matched every GOAT so far, which is kind of strange. We're going to see if we continue that streak again. Jacob and I don't know where everybody's.
I think our Lions are going to match.
You think so?
I just have a feeling that there's going to be a lot of the same Lions on here. I don't know about the GOAT. After the second time we matched, I'm not going to say anything. I just don't know anymore because we just keep matching. And yes, we have no discussion about it. We purposely do not talk about it at all.
Shout out to Detroit Fan Man 9899. He shows up on a weekly basis too. Glad you're here to join us. So let's get into it right now. Jacob, I'll let you start off and introduce our Lions defensive line as we speak right now.
Okay. Right now, Lions defensive line, starting with, do you want me to go through the position? Are we going to do defensive tackle versus edge, or should I just list them all?
You can do however. I mean, on the spreadsheet,
I'm just going to list the names.
Yeah,
I'm just going to list the names on here.
Yes, that's
all
fine.
right. Lions defensive linemen: Aleem McNeil, Tyleek Williams, Miles Adams, Skylar Gill Howard, Aiden Kianaya, Tyler Lacey, Levi Anuzurike, Chris Smith. You didn't pronounce this one. Jay Tufali.
Yeah, that's good.
Tyree West, Makai Wingo, Aiden Hutchinson, DJ Wanham, Derek Moore, Ahmed Hassanin, Anthony Lucas, Eric O'Neill, Peyton Turner. As always, a lot of names on this list because we are entering, as we go into training camp, not all these guys are going to be on the team when we start. That's where we
Yep.
stand right now. First
Yep.
thoughts about the Lions defensive line, Jason.
I'm okay with it. I mean, I really like what we've done at edge. I like DJ Wanham over there. I think Derek Moore, we spent up, regardless what you think, if we overdrafted him or not, he was deserving of, a day two pick, and we got an edge at that position. So and plus he's a Michigan man, excited about that. Hassanin, what is he going to show in this, in year two? He hasn't been playing football that long. So, I mean, you could see some massive growth. He's young. We'll see if he could stay healthy. And the guys, the UK, the Roar of the UK podcast, they're really high on Eric O'Neill. But to me, I want to take that with a grain of salt. It's undrafted free agent. If anything, I'm hoping he just gets on the field at the end of the season. And then Anthony Lucas is getting some hype just inside the Lions room as far as like someone that's come out and played pretty well in pajamas. I don't have any thoughts on Peyton Turner, first round pick. We just got him in the building. Who knows? I mean, that would be great if we could get one season out of him and then he goes signs a big contract somewhere else, because that means he had an awesome season this year with the Lions. So hopefully he shows out. Interior, it's going to be interesting what Tyler can do, right? He's got to take over the nose tackle position from DJ Reader. I know he's strong enough to take on two blockers. Can he get any pass rush from that position? I do like the fact that he gets his hands up and knocks down passes. That could be a game changer. Like, he knocks one of those passes that gets intercepted. I think that is a really good talent to have. Anzarike, we'll see what we get from him. He could end up being number 2 in sacks on this team. Like, I really think that's a big possibility of happening. Or he could, end up on the IR for the whole season. That's a huge possibility
Why would you
too.
say that?
Hey,
I know.
it's Levi. It's happened before,
Right.
right?
We
But
don't know if he's going to make it to training
Tyler
camp.
Lacey, who's they have on the outside, he's their big edge that they play out there, and they like him out there. So, we're hoping we get the old Aleem back, right? Like last year, he's recovering from the injury. If we can get any sort of close to what he was before that, I'm going to be extremely happy. So, where are you at with our defensive line?
I'm okay with it. I think, in my opinion, there's a lot of low risk, moderate to high reward. You don't know for sure about Wanham, what he's going to have, Derek Moore. There's a lot of competition in here. We don't know exactly where these snaps are going to go. We don't know how deep the rotation is going to be.
Yep.
Hutchinson, obviously, you can count on him playing 80 to 90% of the snaps. Now you seem set with Tyleek and Aleem McNeil, but they rotate these defensive tackles. We don't know if Mekhi Wingo is completely done. We don't know the draft picks, Skylar Gill Howard, Miles Adams. They brought on Jay Tufali, like you said, with Levi. Levi plays inside, outside. There's a lot of moving parts here, and I'm okay with it. I like the room that we've built. I like that we can rely on Hutchinson as long as he stays healthy. I really hope that Derek Moore shows out, and you really hope that Aleem, coming off that injury, having a lot more time, will return to form that he was before. I also think it's kind of funny that when Aleem and Tyleek are both out there, it's like you can't tell them apart until the ball snaps. Right? They both got the same hair coming out of the helmet. When they're down in the stands, you can't tell who's out there. So, Aleem's usually the one. Yeah, I was just going to say, Aleem's going to be the one on the quarterback.
Yep.
Nice.
Tyleek had a close one on that trick play that the Giants ran on their first drive where it was like the flea flicker. Like, it didn't fool Tyleek, and he was so close to Jameis to get the sack on that. So I like to see that anticipation. He read the play, he just didn't get there quick enough. So hopefully, experience, maybe being in better conditioning, because I think that was an issue last year. So I'm hoping that is will improve. I am worried about the snap counts and the rotation. Like, I don't necessarily, I'm not in love with our depth. Now, I want to see what happens in training camp. If Levi's healthy, then that is drastically helps. I would love to see Wingo be able to play. Like, if he could get some pass rush, like if we could use him in a NASCAR package on the inside, like on a 3rd and long, that's where I think he's going to shine. The Lions care too much about run defense, and Wingo's too small. They're not going to use him early in downs. I think that he's going to be like your 3rd down inside guy that you're playing 5 down linemen, and you might send him, um, or you're just playing 4 edge guys, and Wingo's just your small guy that you're going to play in the inside with slight bit of size. Uh, I don't know. I do like this team. I do think our starters are. I'm very happy with them. It's just the depth in this whole thing and how it's going to shake out. Losing DJ Reader, while I'm okay with it, that's a lot of snaps to make up.
Right. And like you said, we're counting on Levi being healthy. Makai Wingo's, I'm sure, playing for his job here in training camp. They've
Mhm.
got some rookies in here that are battling. So there's a lot of players. There's a lot of unknowns.
Mhm.
As training camp battles go on, it's going to take a little bit better shape. You just really hope that everybody stays healthy, obviously.
Yep. Tyler Lacey is, kind of an X factor on the outside, depending on how much they use him. I think ideally they're going to want Levi on the outside. Uh, if they're going to use like 5 linemen, they're going to have Levi on the outside too to get pass rush and also be, good for the run. But we'll see. I think Tyler Lacey might be that big end too, depending on where they put Wanham. Because they also talk about Wanham like replacing Aiden. I've heard Dan Campbell say about that. Like they're thinking more like he's more of a rush end. I had a thought about him being the big edge, but Dan Campbell made some early in the offseason had made some comments that DJ Wanham's more similar to Aiden. And so he might spell Aiden because they asked Aiden about, doing 90% of the snaps like you mentioned earlier, and that he noticed that, it is affecting him in the fourth quarter. So will they want to if they have
Absolutely.
someone that's no one's as good as Aiden, but if you have someone that's comparable on the outside that, could provide Aiden so that, fourth quarter Aiden's getting to be like first and second quarter Aiden where he's not running out of juice. So it'll be interesting to see how they shake out. Training camp will be fun to see where they move people all down the line. And these undrafted free agents, I know people are really excited about them. So that's one thing I'm always excited about seeing those guys out there because we don't see them during the season. You don't hear about them at practice. You might
I
hear a
like
couple
seeing
things here
them,
and
and I
there.
like, the hope and the idea, like, could they be like a diamond in the rough? I'm just not a fan of like, oh man, Eric O'Neill, that what a get, he's going to be a great player for us. Like, we don't know that he's even going to make the roster.
Right.
He's an
I
undrafted
know.
free agent for a reason, right? There's a very few of them that come and make impacts right away.
I mean, traditionally, you get, we didn't get one last year, UFDA, but we had a very long streak, and I don't know what it was like 12 seasons or something. It was a really long streak that at least one made the roster. Obviously, it's a little tougher now just because of how deep the roster is, and especially at the high end, like where we're going. I think it's a little tougher as a UDFA to make it, but it's possible. So we'll see. Let's move on to the Vikings. I'll go through this one here. So we got their first round pick, Caleb Banks, Jalen Redmond, Tyron Ingram Dawkins, Eric Johnson, Isaiah Loudermilk, Dominique Orange. It's a weird last name. Javar Ritzy, Levi Drake Rodriguez, Takai Taimani, Smith Vilbert, Elijah Williams, Dallas Turner, Andrew Van Ginkel, Tyler Batty, and Chaz Chambliss. All right, Jacob, what is your thought about the Vikings defensive line? Is it someone that scares you, or is you think it's Brian Flores is going to have some trouble with this unit?
These names and the players don't scare me, but I know what Brian Flores is capable of, and especially with having some draft picks in there. Caleb Banks is somebody that we kind of had our eye on maybe a little bit, just
Yeah.
with the Michigan connections and different things like that. But we all thought for sure that the Vikings were going to be drafting in their secondary, and they didn't. They went with the defensive line. So for whatever
Mhm.
reason, they're trying to make some focus on the defensive line here. Dallas Turner, first round pick a few years back, has not really played very well. There's not anybody. I don't see anybody like Pro Bowl, All Pro caliber. I don't see any of those type of players on here. Van
Mhm.
Ginkel had a couple very good years. He was hurt last year and kind of back and forth. Yeah, there's not anybody on here that I'm like, man, I really, really wish that they were a Lion, or anybody individually that I'm overly concerned about. That
Yeah.
being said, them as a unit and what they bring to the Viking defense and what Flores is trying to do, there's a chance that some of these guys are playing at a very high level and they're just flying under the radar.
Yeah, I think Caleb Banks, you and I were thinking maybe second round. Like we were not thinking at the Lions pick at 17 for Caleb Banks. So when he went to 18, we thought it was going to be Thieneman, right? We thought that
Right.
he was going to, they were going to go with the safety. They went with Caleb Banks. I think, he's one of those guys that health is a factor there. Could he, I mean, if he turns out, then that could be a it could really him and Jalen Redmond on the inside. Like if Caleb Banks turns out, that's tough. Like that could be really tough. However, if Caleb Banks can't get on the field or if things don't work out for him, then then their line doesn't look nearly as good. Uh, Flores is the X factor. Obviously, he puts people in position to succeed. Uh, the thing that I see on this list, and is a lot of UDFA's. I'm wondering about the depth because even after, once you get past, like you have two first rounders in Dallas Turner and Caleb Banks. Dallas Turner's been probably, I would consider, a disappointment so far for being drafted 17. He hasn't, Caleb Banks, we don't know. But after that, you got three fifth rounders, a third rounder, a seventh rounder, and another fifth rounder. So four fifth rounders, a third rounder, and a seventh rounder, and the rest are UDFAs outside those those first round draft picks. If you want to go based on that, that's, kind of rough on the talent. And I don't know how they're going to be in depth. So if someone gets hurt or Caleb Banks doesn't work out, they could be in a little bit of trouble there.
Absolutely.
Right. I'll let you do you got anything else on the Vikings before we move on to the Bears?
No, we can
All
move
right.
on.
All right, go to the Bears.
All right, the Bears. So starting with Jervon Dexter, Grady Jarrett, Neville Gallimore, Jaden Loving, James Lynch, Kentavious Street, Shamar Turner, Jordan Vandenberg, Dio Odengbo, Montez Sweat, Austin Booker, Jonathan Garvin, Daniel Hardy, Jamari Chroma.
Hold on. Is that top 100 player Montez Sweat, Jacob?
Yes, it is. You've heard of him. So last week when we went through the top 100, I said I thought the Bears were only going to have two, Caleb Williams and Colson Loveland. And I did make the comment, do they sneak in Montez Sweat or Devin Bush just because they want to get some more Bears players on there? And the Bears are, the hot talk of the town right now. And then, wouldn't you know it, Montez Sweat makes a quick appearance there. I don't even remember what number it was in the 90s.
I think it's number 91, I think. And it was like the very next day after the podcast. So that was hilarious for both of us. So, I knew. And you're like, your comment was, and they were already ripping the list. That's what you always say. They hate those. Everyone hates those lists. All right. What's your thoughts on the Bears line?
If I'm being honest, similar to the Vikings, where it's like, none of these names on here overly scare me. There's not anybody that's Montez Sweat. I will give him is a good player, a decent player. That's somebody that potentially could be good on the Lions. I don't care for most of these other guys on here though. And I think they were kind of middle in the pack last year. They're bringing back a lot of the same people. I don't know. Yeah. I mean, that's a toss up for me. It's up in the air. I don't love it though.
Yeah.
How do you feel about the Bears?
I think that's going to struggle. First, a team that wants to model the Lions. I don't think that this line is very good, and I think their offensive lines, could have some struggles too, just based on Drew Dalman, retiring. So I'm not overly worried about this defensive line. I think Montez Sweat is a good player. Don't know if he's top 100, but double-digit sacks. He plays, for a playoff team, an NFL darling. People, kind of the position the Lions were in a couple of years ago, where everybody just wanted to root for the Lions. The Bears are like that, like once a decade, where everyone just kind of like, oh, come on, you can do this, and they got the Caleb Williams factor or whatever. I'm not overly worried about this defensive line. Grady Jarrett, their inside really doesn't scare me at all. Their outside, Dio Dengbo was ranked 106 out of 119 on the edge, and he's going to be one of their starters. And then you got Montez Sweat, who was PFF ranked 37th last year. Montez Sweat didn't have, his production has declined. And, if he doesn't have someone on the other side scaring people away, similar to like what people think about the Lions with Aiden Hutchinson, they're just going to put more attention to Montez Sweat, and that's just more work that he's got to do. So, unlike the Vikings, there are a lot of draft picks. They only have two UDFAs in their whole defensive line, and one is from this year and one's from 2024. And so they are returning a lot of people, so maybe second year in the defense they'll see some production, but none of these names really, really frighten me at all. All right, let's move on to the Packers, the hated Packers. All right, you got Javon Hargrave came from the Vikings, moved over to the Packers. You got Devontae Wyatt. Those are going to projected to be their two starters in the inside. You got Warren Brinson, Carl Brooks, Anthony Campbell, Jaden Crumendy. Yeah, I said that right. Jonathan Ford, Chris McKellen, Jordan Riley, Nazir Stackhouse, it's Micah Parsons. Okay, got it. Lucas Van Ness, Brenton Cox Jr., Dennis Sutton, Nigel Kelly, Aaron Mosby, Colin Oliver, and Baron Sorrell. Packers, the boys in the green and the yellow. Obviously, Micah stands out to you. What do you think about this line? Lucas Van Ness was ranked 25th in PFF last year. Did he turn the edge, or what happened there?
I actually like the Packers line for them, not for us. Especially when Micah comes back. Micah Parsons coming off the injury. We'll see how long it takes him to get really back up to speed, up to form. But when you have a healthy Micah Parsons, Lucas Van Ness on the other side of Micah is really good. And then I don't think Devontae Wyatt graded out too high on Pro Football Focus, but I actually like Devontae Wyatt and Javon Hargrave. So really,
Okay.
I mean, I do like the Packers line more so than any of the other ones that we've talked about. And I definitely think that their line is going to be a problem. With that being said, when we're talking about the other positions, I don't know if you can burst through the line with Gibbs. I don't know that their linebackers and corners are much to worry about as a unit. But we're on the defensive line right now, and I got to give the Packers credit. I think they've built a pretty good defensive line over there. What do you feel?
I feel like Lucas Van Ness was a bust until last year when Micah Parsons came, and
yes,
everybody went over there and said, "Hey, I'm going to pay attention to this Micah guy," and then Lucas Van Ness kind of snuck in there. That's my feeling on it. Now, is it possible that he made a year 3 jump? Yeah, 100%. I mean, that's possible. We've seen it here in Detroit. I just think it's coincidental that it happened when Micah showed up to town. That's the thing that is gonna when we get to the rankings here. I don't know how much you consider the Micah Parson ACL injury. Like he's not going to show up till October at the earliest. I think that Micah's injury affects the whole, like the other side too. The whole, basically the whole line, but really the other edge position. You start giving Lucas Van Ness Micah attention or part Micah attention. Is he going to be as effective? I don't think so. Now they do have a new defensive coordinator, which could be good, but their one last year, I really liked their defensive coordinator last year, so I was happy to see him move on to Miami. So we'll see how Gannon does in Packers, but Hargrave, I was glad that he got out of the division when he left the Vikings, only to stay inside the division. So that sucks. And I guess I don't have that feeling about Devontae Wyatt. What did you like about him? Just like
I just liked when he came out. I guess more so like coming
okay,
out. I want to say he was a first round pick.
he was in
Yeah,
2022.
Just somebody that I liked. And I was like, man, I would like to have him on the Lions. The dude's massive.
Okay. Yeah.
Up and down play so far. But I mean, he's a big defensive tackle. And real quick before we move on, just about the Van Ness stuff, I kind of think of Van Ness almost like Al-Quadin Muhammad, where because Hutchinson's on the other side, because he's taken up all that attention, when given that sort of opportunity, Al-Quadin Muhammad made the most of it and showed that he could be impactful. And I think you're right that with Micah there, that's what Lucas Van Ness was able to do.
Mm-hmm.
So, time will tell. Last year or the year before last, Van Ness did not do much of anything. Last year, he really showed out. Did he turn the corner? We're about to find out the first half of the season here. I don't think that he's going to be able to hold down the fort and, be nearly as effective, as when they have Micah Parsons. But I think that they're probably feeling okay about it because they have Van Ness.
Yeah, but I always want to remind you and remind everybody that's listening. Lucas Van Ness only played 9 games last year and started 2. So, that's like half the games. We know PFF can, these ratings can be crazy sometimes. So we'll see if he's got to extend that to a whole year, especially without Micah being there for, it's going to be at least 4 or 5 games before he's back. And we see what an ACL injury did to Aleem McNeil, and Aleem's size had something to do with it, but you need that ACL for explosion, and obviously for an edge player, we'll see how that affects Micah. All right,
It might
do you want
explain the
to do?
PFF also real quick, just
Yeah.
because I looked to make sure. Van Ness did play in every game in both years before this, and
Yeah.
his Pro Football Focus ranking was not very high. You enter Micah Parsons, and then you have a limited, sample size. Remember, that's what I said about the corners too. For whatever reason, Pro Football Focus will reward cornerbacks that have played 400 snaps versus the ones that have played 1,000. Well, when you're playing, twice as many snaps, there's way more opportunities for you to lose coverage or something like that and be graded negatively. So,
Yep.
Yeah, maybe you're onto
100%.
something there with his 2 starts.
All right, man. You want to do your top 4, or do you want me to do mine?
I'll just say mine first because you have the graphic on there, right?
Yeah.
I didn't do the graphic. So for my top 4, I do have the Vikings in 4th.
Okay.
I have the Bears 3rd, and then I have the Lions 2nd and Packers 1st.
Whoa, you got the Packers first.
And this does not shut up. Don't even finish that sentence. This does not factor in the injury. Just to be fair, exactly when I graded out the safeties, that was with Brian Branch and Kirby Joseph. This is assuming that Micah Parsons is healthy and grading the line as a whole.
Okay. So just to clarify, I took into consideration the Micah Parsons injury, so in mine. So which I think is the way I think it's fair to grade them. So mine is, I got the Bears last. I actually have Green Bay 3rd because I don't see a lot of depth there. Like I said, I'm not overly impressed with Van Ness, and I don't think he's going to have the showing there. And I don't think Micah Parsons is going to be Micah Parsons next year, especially even when if he comes back in October. I just don't see it unless he has like some sort of I don't feel like he has the Adrian Peterson body where he just like comes back and gets the 2,000-yard season after a devastating injury. It could be surprised, but I just don't see it from Micah. I got the Vikings 2nd.
That's interesting to me. That's interesting that you have the Vikings at number 2.
I think mostly I have them that high. I like Jalen Redmond. If Caleb Babe shows out, part of this is the Brian Flores factor in all this, and that's why I got him there. And I have the Lions number 1. I think they're coming in with a healthy line. I like Tyreek. You got a first rounder there. Aleem's coming back. Hopefully fully healthy from his injury. If he come back, Aiden Hutchinson had 1,000 snaps last year, still coming off a broken leg. He's still got heights he can reach. We signed DJ Wanham, and we spent a high draft pick on Derek Moore. So yeah, is this the Lions bias? It may be, but I do believe that I'll take Aiden. A fully healthy Aiden Hutchinson is better than Micah Parsons. He just is. So we'll see how it goes. But that's where I got it right now. You want to do your favorite Lions, or you want me to do mine first?
You've already got your graphic up. You go ahead and do yours.
All right.
Because mine does not always cooperate with my PowerPoint.
All right. So my favorite Lions, I've started with the edge. Aiden Hutchinson is my favorite. The Michigan connection, just the line started to get really good when he came on here. He's just my all-time favorite edge right now. Robert Porsche was, until Aiden Hudson hit town. He's just someone that was the best edge rusher all through my childhood, and for the longest time, he still holds the sack record for the Lions. Aiden's probably going to break it, hopefully he breaks the season record this year. That's like 15.5 sacks or something like that. So I'm hoping that happens. And Kyle Vanden Bosch, the red eye demon, playing the outside Jim Schwartz defense. The story of him, Jim Schwartz waiting on the outside of Kyle Vanden Bosch's house when he was with the Titans to sign on the first day of free agency. I just have great thoughts about Kyle Vanden Bosch. So that's my top 3 favorite all-time Lions edge players.
Nice.
I'm going to move to the inside, and then I'm very curious to hear yours. Inside, I know he did not have a great, exit from us, but Ndamukong Suh was an all-time inside. Like, he's not on Aaron Donald's level, but pretty darn close during that time. Like, he was, putting it just unstoppable on the inside. And if we could have had, if Jim Swartz would have just been our defensive coordinator and then we had a different head coach, man, we could have had a different, like Dan Campbell been our head coach and Swartz been our defensive coordinator, like in a time warp, we would have just dominated. It would have been awesome. Jerry Ball is probably someone you don't know, but for me as a kid, Tecmo Super Bowl, just like he's this huge, massive, like old school lineman, just clogs up the interior of the line. I'd be surprised if he's on your list, but he's just someone that when I heard favorite interior defensive line, he was like the first name that came up in my head. Like wasn't necessarily my favorite player, but he just came up in my head like, oh, I got to get Jerry Ball in this. And big baby Rogers. I took a picture. If you're watching visually, I got the picture of him returning. I don't know if that's the pick six that he had or a fumble recovery, but just him running down the field. I don't know if he was always a super high effort guy, but he was a dominant guy on the inside for a while with us, and I like, and plus his nickname, Big Baby, gotta love it. So that's my interior defensive line: Sue, Rogers, and Jerry Ball. I'm ready for yours, Jacob.
All right. Yeah, Jerry Ball, I have not heard of.
So while you get yours up, I'm gonna. Dan Pask says, did Jim Schwartz have a boombox like John Cusack? I don't know if that was High Fidelity. I can't remember what movie that was, but he had the boombox outside the girl's window to get her attention. Maybe. What song would he have played? What
Nice.
song would you have played to get an edge rusher on your team? Price of AC/DC, you think?
Depends on the edge rusher.
Yeah, I guess.
He's
Vanderbosch with the red eyes, Metallica, probably.
Yeah.
Metallica, you think? Or Pantera, something like that, something hard.
Can you see my screen now?
Yeah, I got it up. All right.
All right. Top 3 Lions defensive tackles. So number 3, I have Luther Ellis.
Ooh, great pick. Great pick.
So it's funny that most of these come back to Madden and like when I was first a fan and playing these video games, but Luther Ellis was the top ranked player on the Lions for one of those Madden games, Madden 2002 or 2003 or something. So when I'm playing on the defense, you can control Luther Ellis, and he was just the best player on the Lions at that point. Number 2, it's funny that I used the same picture as you also, Sean Rogers. I put like one of his headshots over there too. But,
I like that.
Yeah, right. Just awesome, huge. That pick 6, just iconic. Him getting the oxygen on the sideline afterward too. Just watching him rumble down the field. I would have to look and see what year that was, but I feel like I had to be like maybe 12 years old or something when that happened.
Yeah.
I think is that Eddie Drummond running behind him? All right.
I don't know.
Number 1, Sue.
Yeah.
And didn't like how he left and the things he said about Detroit since, kind of up and down, but you can't deny that he's the best tackle that we've had. The All-Pros, he had the Rookie of the Year, the leader of the defense when we started having some moderate success and making the playoffs. So Sue's my number 1 defensive tackle.
Yep.
Move on to
we should clarify, these are our favorite players, so like we're not picking, they're not necessarily, like you said, that's the best defensive tackle. Obviously, we're not looking back at 50s and 60s and 70s tape.
Right.
These are just the players that we like. So, all right, let's see these edges. I'm curious.
So number 3, I have Cliff Averill, which is funny because, I'm looking at the list of the different edge defenders, and Vanden Bosch was iconic when he was there too. I just really liked Cliff Averill. And that was somebody that was really, upset that we did not re-sign him and that he left. He left chasing championships and chasing better things, though, went to the Seahawks. So good for Cliff Averill, but I liked when he was here on the Lions. Number 2, Robert Porcher. So this, funnily enough, he was the second highest rated player on the Madden that I was talking about because whatever game that was, it was like Porcher and Luther Ellis were the top 2. So, you're changing players. Well, you can change. If I thought they were going to run, I'd be on the inside with Ellis. And if I thought they were going to pass, I'd just move to the outside. So also video game related, but I mean, he was a Lion for such a long time, just iconic. And then number 1, you got to go Hutchinson. He's got the Michigan connection already. Just super high hopes for the draft pick. Everything about it was great. His attitude, his play on the field, just, top to bottom has just been exactly what we hoped it would be.
Yeah.
So that's my list.
Yeah, I'm so happy that the Aiden thing, like we got, like you felt, like that stuff rarely happens to Lions that the player you want falls to you and it works out. Like you're like, I hope we get
Right,
Aiden.
right.
Fell to us. Like it seems like in years past we get the number 2 pick and just work out. But we did get Sue number 2, I think. What Calvin Johnson was second pick. Like number 2 pick's been very fruitful for us. Number 3, not so much.
Right.
Looking at
Don't
you,
mention the
Jeff
number
Okuda.
3s.
All right. Now it's time to move on to our top 5 NFL right now current NFL defensive linemen. We did combine these, so these are edge and defensive line. Do you want to go first, or do you want me to go first?
I'll go first this time.
All right, cool.
Let me get my screen back up here. All right. You good? You got me? Top 5 current
Yeah,
defensive
we're good, man.
linemen. Skip to 4. Number 5, we have a tie. So I wanted to include Cam Hayward on this list, but I couldn't leave out TJ Watt. So for my list, I have a tie at number 5 between those two Pittsburgh Steelers. Cam Hayward,
Okay.
TJ Watt. TJ Watt, just one of the all-time greats. Still at a high level when the doctor's not puncturing his lung or whatever he had going on that kind of ruined the season before.
God.
Cam Hayward also on year, like 14 or something crazy. Cam Hayward just been doing it for such a long time to still be at a pretty high level. Number 4, if you're watching the video feed, I ruined it, but I didn't say it. I've got Aiden Hutchinson at number 4. I think that he's proved himself time and time again. He keeps getting better. We'll see what happens this year. But right now I have him number 4 on my list. Number 3, I've got Will Anderson from the Texans. I really like Will Anderson. You know that we ran into him by chance at Universal in Florida. So he's one of my boys' favorite players just because of that, too, just because he said hi to us that one time. But Will Anderson, dominant player, somebody that I would love to have on the Lions for sure. Number 2, I have Micah Parsons.
Isn't it funny that a simple act of a player saying hi could just change your kid's perspective? Like a simple gesture like that. It's not like he signed a football, gave him a jersey. He said hi. That's cool. That's awesome. Sorry to interrupt.
All he did was turn, like JJ recognized him. He said, "Is that Will Anderson?" And I looked up. Obviously, he's like towering over everybody. And then, he's got a distinct look. I was like, I think that is Will Anderson. So we just yelled his name like Will. And then he kind of like turned and looked, seen us, just a quick wave. He just gave us a wave, said, "What's up?" Took like 10 seconds out of his day, but my kids still talk about that and they still love it. So you're right. Just something
Very cool.
Very small like that. Moving back on the list, number 2, I have Micah Parsons. Sucks that he plays for the Packers. I do think he's a very dominant player. The off the field stuff makes me happy that we have Hutchinson over him. I like Hutchinson's attitude. I like what he's about. I think that's where Micah Parsons maybe falls off for me a little bit as far as who I'd want on my team. But I do have Micah rated higher than him when you're just talking about the field or the product on the football field. And then the number 1 defensive lineman, should shock nobody, is Myles Garrett. Superhuman, just absolutely insane. It's funny. A lot of people want him on the Lions. All the trade talk, and then the Browns are not going to trade him. What are they doing? And then he goes to the freaking Rams.
I know. Yeah.
Bummer.
It's not. I mean, it's like when Micah went to the Packers. God, that same like devastating feeling. Like not only to
that was a little worse, I think, just because he went to the Packers. This was like, well, whatever.
100%, but it's still like if you have aspirations to win the Super Bowl or win the NFC, and then one of the top other contenders gets the best defensive player in football, yeah, it's a little shot to the gut. But you're right. The Micah thing had the Packers. All right, number 5. I put Chris Jones because I think he is a really top, and I wanted to have, spoiler alert, the rest of mine are edge guys, and I wanted to get an interior guy in here.
I had to think about that.
However, I will say that just because I put this player on here doesn't mean that I necessarily want him on the Lions. I don't know if his effort level matches what the Lions want at all times. I've seen play where he take plays off, and the time when he was in a contract dispute but still sitting in the suites, that was a little off-putting to me. So that may factor in this, but he's still a dominant player. Just it is what it is about his effort. Number 4, our man Aiden Hutchinson. Highest effort on any of these guys on our list, in my opinion. I just think that he's a guy that just gives it all. So glad that he's on our team. I got to get an updated jersey from him. I'm waiting for the Rivals jersey because I have the old gray Hutchinson jersey, which I still like and I'll still wear, but I want to get a new updated one because the guy deserves for me to do that, even though I might get it from DH Gate because I'm
Yeah.
not paying $200 and some dollars. But
Get it from
it is
China.
what it is. All right, number 3. Will Anderson did not say hi to me, but I still like him, and I still think he's a dominant player. I just, they went up. They got him in the same draft as C.J. Stroud, right? And Will Anderson's been, outside of the rookie year, Will Anderson's been the biggest playmaker out of the two, even though the C.J. Stroud's in the quarterback position. It helps when Donnell Hunter is on the other side of you, I will admit. But yeah, young guy edge. He's already gotten a contract. I like he has he gotten is he up for contract extension? It must be soon. So
I
I
think he
don't know
signed
if
one, didn't he?
did he say yeah.
I
I'm
feel like
thinking
he
he
just
did.
signed.
So he's gonna make a tons of money. Number 2, if you're keeping track, 4-3-2-1 is all matched. Micah Parsons is number 2. I didn't necessarily factor the injury in this one, and I probably am inconsistent as far as my other rankings, but was nothing short of spectacular for the Packers. They got everything they wanted from Micah, even though he was coming off an injury, didn't play anything for the Cowboys, and then got a sack in the opening game with the Lions, even though it was towards the end, and you had Jared Goff trying to run away from him, which is never going to happen. Dan Pass says Will is the highest paid non
I was waiting for you to get done to say that, but yeah.
Yeah.
The contract
So
he just signed
I
made
forgot
him
I had read that.
defensive player, yeah.
Doesn't surprise me that he got that contract. Micah Parsons obviously signed a huge deal last year. And my number 1 will totally shock you. It will totally shock you. No, it won't. Is Myles Garrett, best defensive player. And after it's all said and done, he might move into GOAT territory if he's not already. He is all-time sack leader. Similar to a Matt Stafford type thing, stuck. Matt Stafford just didn't win the playoffs, and whether you could argue that was because of Matt Stafford or just because of the ineptitude of the Detroit Lions front office, whatever you want to argue, Myles Garrett was stuck on the Browns and nothing in there. But Myles Garrett is also complicit with it because he kept signing those contracts. And he could have forced his exit earlier if you wanted
Didn't
to
he
use his
post a
leverage.
goodbye? He posted goodbye to Cleveland and then signed a contract after that anyway.
Then, he said, I don't want, I'm all about, I want to win. And then,
money talks.
He signed that contract. So we are getting to the GOAT. Dan Pask asked if Aaron Donald is the GOAT. I'm going to go right to mine and say that it is not my GOAT. I would not be shocked if it's your GOAT, Jacob. This could be the first time we differ. Mine, I'm going back further. I am going to Reggie White, another Packer. It pains me, but Reggie White, the Minnesota defense was the best that I'd ever seen on the line. Just he could take an offensive lineman under his shoulder and just shove him aside. He was massive. This might be a little too early for you, Jacob. I don't know where you're at, but I mean, he was great with Philadelphia, and then he came to Green Bay and tore the lines up, and just he was amazing. And so Reggie White is my GOAT. But I'm ready to hear your GOAT.
All right. Yeah. So spoiler alert, it is not Reggie White. I know of Reggie White, but he's an older one, not somebody that I saw or thought of. So
yep.
Hang on one second here. So I also kind of cheated because I have 2 GOATs because I did list a defensive tackle and I listed a edge.
Okay. Just like you did top 6 because you cheated there. So okay.
Yeah.
Jacob's a cheater today.
It's not letting me share my window again. Hang on.
All right. So while you're doing that, I'll answer Dan Pass' question. Is Aaron Donald your GOAT? It's not mine. We'll see if it's Jacob's, but do you think he's going to unretire? Man, my hope is I hope he doesn't. He is 2 years out, but if you've seen some workout videos, the guy is still still in it, and he could come back and play. I don't know if he'd be as dominant as he was before, but 75% of Aaron Donald is still Pro Bowl caliber player. I don't know if it's all pro player, but it's still. And then you had Miles Garrett on the outside. God, I don't know how you block that. That would just be insane. So
I told you that was my concern the second that they got Miles Garrett. I texted you.
yeah,
I think I
mhm,
told JJ, I was like, Aaron Donald's going to come back now. Why wouldn't,
yeah,
if he's, and he's staying in shape, he's not in football shape, but he's working out and staying in shape. Why not just have one more run at it? He's not looking for a massive contract or anything like that. So, yeah.
all right.
All
I
right.
see you
You
got it
see,
up now.
all
All
right.
right.
So,
Yep, we got it.
my goat. So, my defensive tackle goat is Aaron Donald. My edge is
Yeah,
JJ Watt. So JJ Watt just
nice.
dominant for so long, all pro for however many years in a row, defensive player of the year for however many years in a row. He also is like in the MVP voting, just dominant player. Picture that I chose on there. If you got the visual up when he busted his nose, just has the blood coming down. Just a crazy, intimidating guy. And then Aaron Donald, can't say enough about him either. Although the main thing when I think of with Aaron Donald is that, man, would have been nice to be a Lion. That was the year that we drafted Ebron.
Oh
So that's
God,
always like a
I
what could
know.
have been. We could have had Aaron Donald. The work ethic, everything about him, even though he's undersized, just stronger than everybody, relentless. Having him next to Hutchinson would be insane. What could have been. But those are my goats, Aaron Donald and JJ Watt.
I like it. Those are good. JJ Watt, I that arm brace that he has is iconic to me. Like that's
Yeah.
what I think of when I think of JJ Watt. Like that huge elbow brace that he has on there, and just him getting pick sixes, just massive person, just so dominant. Yeah, that's a great pick for an edge, all time edge. Yeah, I can't argue against either one of those guys. Aaron Donald is just like anyone that tries to compare anyone to Aaron Donald is just like I said with Sue, but even Sue just wasn't good. He wasn't, he
It's
just
kind of
wasn't the
different.
worker that Aaron Donald was.
Yeah. Different kind of players.
Yeah. Now, I would say that had Aaron Donald been drafted with the Lions, that he would have had the dirty tag on him too. Because I mean, I know he swung at helmets and everything like that. He doesn't necessarily have that, but I know if he'd have played with the Lions, he would have certainly got it because all Lions
He fought Panay
sports
Sewell.
figures get that. Yeah, he did.
Remember that? Yeah.
Yeah, and he swung a helmet like Miles Garrett. So if he comes out, watch your helmet and the Rams. Those
Yeah.
guys, they'll kill you, man. God, that was a Bengals training camp, like one of those joint practices that
Yeah.
Aaron Donald supposedly grabbed his helmet was swinging.
I think there's video of that,
To
isn't there?
me,
I feel
there
like I've seen
probably
video of
is.
that.
Yeah,
It's not as bad as
I
the Myles Garrett, Mason
the
Rudolph.
Miles Garrett thing is like he's lucky. He's lucky that he didn't kill the quarterback. Like I.
Right.
I mean, it's not like you or I are swinging that helmet. It is Miles Garrett with those huge arms and those muscles. Like it's not, that those helmets themselves are heavy. Like he's swinging a weapon. It's unbelievable that he didn't get a concussion. Like his head to just break and bleed all over. Like I don't know
That could have been
how.
terrible.
Oh, I don't know how it didn't happen worse than that. But we did it. We're through the defensive line. Next week we will do running back, and the following week we'll do quarterback. Running back and quarterback, we're going to do a little different. Instead of doing our GOAT, we're still going to do a GOAT because we'll have one, but we are going top five. And Jacob, I've already started working on mine, and it is tough. It is really tough. And I have had a list. I've changed my list. I will change it before next week. Even the top five current is
Yeah.
really difficult. And I don't know how you do your top five lists. Like mine have been mostly on feel, like just from watching the games and stuff like that, which is really hard for interior offensive line. Like I'm not watching a lot of that stuff. Like I'm not watching tape, especially if they're not against Lions opponents. But for the premier positions like quarterback, running back, a lot of eye tests. Like I've seen these guys. Like I know who I'd want on my team. I know what type of player they are. So it was really tough. I went back and forth on a lot of these guys. So I can't wait to talk about this. I can't wait to see where our lists are at because they could be the same like they were today, or they could be vastly different. So I'm waiting for that. I think it's gonna be fun and a good show.
Definitely. When you get to quarterback and running back, there's so many high level players, especially when you do the all time players. So hoping that our lists are different and there's a little bit of discussion there, but I knew today. I wasn't sure about like our current players. I didn't know they were going to be in the same order like that either.
Hmm.
But I was pretty sure with the all-time Lions as far as defensive line goes, I knew there was going to be similar names. I knew
Yep.
Porsche was going to be on there. Hutchinson's got to be on there. I didn't know that you were going to do Sean Rogers also, but
Yeah. Yeah. I guess Luther Ellis should have showed up. Like he just didn't come up when I thought about them. But when we like a lot of these names, like I almost know right away who I'm gonna pick. I knew Sue was gonna make the list. I knew Sean Rogers was gonna make the list. And then I kind of just went back and I wanted to do something from like my childhood. A lot of times you do the games from the video games, and that was for me. Like the original Tecmo Bowl had Jerry Ball in the middle, and some guy like I used to play with, especially if you guessed the play right, he'd bust right in, get a sack. It's just it. Those
nice.
things are
Right.
like stuck in my memory. So,
Yes,
uh,
right. That's why it's your individual list is you have a connection with them maybe more so than just them on the field.
yeah, 100%. So next week we'll be back on Tuesday. We will do our running back will be next week. So, and did not see Supergirl as I said. I got to get there. We're getting real, and I know the box office is bad. I just have to go see it for myself to judge. I don't DC movies I really have liked, so I don't like to look at any of the reviews on any of this stuff. But I will tell you an iconic movie that my boys and I just watched with I think Sarah might have been her first time watching Infinity War. That movie, I don't is that your favorite Marvel movie, Infinity War, or what's your favorite?
Man, that's tough. Spring that question on me like that. For me to not say one of the Spider-Man movies too. So
No, no.
Infinity War was just iconic. The hype and everything around it, and seeing that in the theater, that's got to be towards the top of the list.
Yeah.
I mean, I like the Guardians of the Galaxy movies. I liked Spider-Man, but obviously you got all the characters in the same movie there. So
Yeah, I Infinity War is about as perfect of a superhero movie to me. There's just so many iconic things like when Cap gets reintroduced, get this man a shield. Sweet line from Black Panther. Just, you know, Hulk, you thinking he's beating Thanos at the beginning of the movie, and Thanos just just destroys Hulk. Uh, there's just so much stuff in there. The whole Thor story about getting Stormbreaker, I love that.
yeah,
There's just so much that is amazing in that movie. And sometimes you get all those superheroes in a movie and it feels overstuffed. I don't feel like that movie's overstuffed. I think that they did the right balance and got everybody in there. I I loved it. Endgame, I liked. I thought it wrapped up, but I think the time travel stuff was weak in that movie.
I don't like
I
when they bring the time travel stuff in like
Yeah,
that.
it feels like cheating to me. Like
Right,
I just
right.
I don't know. I don't know how else you could have did this movie without that, wrapping that up the way they ended with killing half the people without reversing time, but it that's disappointing.
Even that
You
though, when they
liked
come back, the whole like, okay, you know what? They brought him back, but they brought him back in the exact same place. Isn't it
Yeah.
5 years or how many years it is like in the future?
Yeah, I think it's 5 years.
Yeah, right. So then there's like people that have not aged at all, and there's people like living in each other's houses. Like that whole thing is weird, and they kind of gloss over all that.
Right, like
It's a central part of Spider-Man, but yeah,
if you died on an airplane, do you come back in the middle of the sky and just fall to Earth and die anyways? I don't know. They didn't go through that. Marvel didn't want to go through that dark part of canon. But so you liked all the Guardians of the Galaxy movies? You said those are your favorite. You said those are good. So is that
I did like all of the Guardians of the Galaxy movies.
okay?
I mean, it was kind of the same where the third kind of felt like probably didn't have to be made and that they wrapped it up. But the first and second one were very, very good. In my opinion,
Yeah,
I really liked them.
I like the first one. I do not like the second one. I think that
The
kind of
second
Preston.
one's one with his dad, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
like I just parts of it just seemed boring, and I just didn't really like. I just didn't. I don't know why. I'm a Chris Pratt fan. I like Chris Pratt. It just didn't resonate with me. I think the best, Spider-Man. I love Spider-Man the character. I just don't know if they've hit a home run yet with with everything in the movies. But Captain America, the Captain America, the first one's probably the weakest. I think Winter Soldier could be like my number two favorite Marvel movie. And Civil War is that's an awesome movie. That's really an Avengers movie, but
Right.
it's in the Captain America thing. The conflict between him and Iron Man, and then the introduction of Spider Man in that movie. I wish I would have not been ruined and know that was going to happen. I wish he would have just showed up and like I didn't know that. I knew going in that Spider Man's in this movie.
Ruin the
I
surprise.
wish that would have been a hell of a good surprise had that.
Like when
Oh man, that would have
Tobey
been
Maguire and
awesome.
Andrew Garfield came out.
Yeah.
Did you see Deadpool vs. Wolverine in the theater?
Not in the theater. Nope, I
That
saw
was
that.
another one that I wanted to see right away. And
Yeah.
when Blade came out, when they had the
Yes.
scene where they came out, I had no idea that was happening. So that was
Oh yeah.
awesome. And like they had the whole thing where he thinks that it is Captain America,
Yes. Yeah,
because
and
they got
it's
Chris Evans and
really
it's really Fantastic
it's
Four. Yes.
yep.
Awesome.
Now Blade, you brought up Blade. Have you seen the original Blade movies?
No.
Yeah.
Well,
They are
yes and no, but like
okay.
not my thing is I've not sat down from beginning to end and watched it straight through and know everything that's going on. I
Oh
think the
man.
Blade movie came out when I was really young. So that was one of
Yeah.
those things where it was like, man, this is on HBO. Catch it on HBO at different times or this or that. I know of it, but I can't say for sure whether it was a good movie or anything like that.
I saw Blade in the theater, and I remember seeing it. I don't know if I was in high school or shortly out of high school. I can't remember the timing of it. It blew my mind. It is. I mean, you can't have your kids around when you watch that movie. There are some really graphic stuff in there, but it blew my mind at the time that a comic book movie could be gritty. Like it is like the first time that like it is just like there's no comic other than like Wesley Snipes with some of his wisecracks. Other than that, it is graphic. There is extreme violence, just amazing stuff. The blood is unreal. The opening sequence is just unbelievable. And Wesley Snipes, regardless of what you think about him, he had screen presence in that movie. Like when he was on screen, I was like, holy crap, this guy is cool. Like he is beyond cool. And when he showed up and Wolverine and Deadpool, I was super excited about that because I'm like, this, I don't know, he's like probably 60 something and he still looks cool. And I'm like, God damn it,
Right.
this
Right.
guy.
The aura. He's got the screen presence. He just does not have any athletic ability
Yeah.
whatsoever.
Now, the second one I also saw in the theater, that was really cool. I was also DJing at the time, and they had like this techno trap music that I used to like. I used to play some of those. I don't play a lot of techno, but those were like enough people had heard them that I could play that and people would like that. And like in the basement, I had my strobe lights going with it. It was really, I really liked it. It was really cool. Blade 3, total disappointment. But Blade 1 and 2, those movies are really good. They're not like flawless. Some of the CGI in the first one certainly doesn't hold up, and in the second one too. But a Blade, Wesley Snipes definitely makes up for it. So I do recommend you watch, especially the first and probably the second one. I you would like it. I think it's cool action. There's a lot of good fight scenes. It's really cool.
Yeah, the first Blade came out in '98.
Yep.
So
Yeah, that's when I
I was
graduated
8
high
years
school.
old.
So yeah, you shouldn't have saw it when you were 8. I could tell you that.
Right.
18 was like, yeah, like right 18. I was like, oh my god, there's some graphic stuff in there. But yeah, I do recommend you seeing that. It's good, man.
I could have only seen parts of Blade 2 for all I know.
Yeah, Blade 2 starts out really. Both of the opening sequence of both of those movies are just, man, they get you hooked right away, and I love it. It's good.
Nice.
It's good stuff. But yeah, Spider-Man, we are like a month away, dude. I cannot wait. We should
I
do a
know.
podcast. We're gonna have to do a podcast on the Spider-Man movie. We don't like
Are you gonna
ever
see
do
it right
anything
away?
like that. Huh?
Are you gonna go see it right away?
Yeah, I'm gonna go see it right away. So I think I don't know how we'll handle it. Like, because I don't like to be spoiler guy, but we will have to just have spoiler warnings about it, because if we're going to talk about it, but we'll maybe give our first review like in the 15 minutes and then talk a little bit more about it. It's not going to be heavy spoilers. We're getting deep into canon. It'll be just two guys who love Spider-Man talking about
Right.
the Spider-Man movie. But we should
Awesome.
probably do that, at some point, because I think that'd be fun. But you got anything else before we head out of here?
No, I'm ready.
All right, man. Well, the intro was, a work in progress as we go. I am too stubborn to go back to Welcome to Talking Grit. The big voice at the beginning of our intro already says it, so I'm trying to get away from repeating it. And to see your look on your face when I screwed up, it's priceless to me. So I like it.
Nice.
But the outro is gonna stay the same. I'm Jason. He's Jacob. Let's go Lions.